and welcome back to the morning show on AM 650 KGAB. I'm Amy Richards, and would like to hold on a minute. Let me just get things straight here. Just getting everything ready. Well, I'd like to welcome to the morning show Emily Hasenauer and Stacy Lynne. Emily Hasenauer, Laramie County Commissioner. Stacy Lynne, a journalist from Colorado, and we're going to talk today about Plan Cheyenne and what's going on there. Good morning, Stacy. Good morning, Stacy.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, that was just me. I'm talking to myself. Which is okay, but I'm really boring. So, Emily, we're going to let you take over. First of all, talk about your town hall meeting.
Yeah, it's coming up Saturday at 3:30 to 5:45 at the Cottonwood Room. That's 2200 Pioneer Avenue. We're going to have some county issues there, and because of this going to the city planning and then to the county planning and then back to the city council and then to the county commissioners, we're having this town hall meeting to bring Stacy Lynne up to talk about what's inside Plan Cheyenne. How many pages, Stacy, you have read?
Well, just the basic documents are approximately 500 pages, and then there are a lot of supplemental documents that, of course, are hundreds more.
And I think you're smart as a whip, and anybody can go through that. Even our county attorney said, kudos to you. He went through our land draft, and after 40 pages, it gets really burdensome to read. Appreciate you taking the time to be with us today in our great Western community, and personally, I'd like to keep it that way. Love you to talk about some of the things that you identified. What's going on with the Fort Collins plan that we need to avoid up here in Plan Cheyenne?
Right, and I'll start by saying the reason I was compelled to come to the Planning Commission in Cheyenne on Monday is because when I was informed that Plan Cheyenne is on the way to the people there, I'm very concerned about how that's going to impact everyone in the community, but especially senior citizens, minority populations, and disabled populations. These plans unfortunately impact negatively those populations the most, along with families who are struggling just to meet the basic needs of food and fuel and housing. So I have seen the impact of Plan Cheyenne played out in Fort Collins. The biggest thing that is coming your way is a lot of restrictions on what you do with your own home, and that also includes small business owners. So at the town hall meeting, I will be showing photos of Cheyenne. I've done some research there and taken some photos. So we'll be comparing photos of Cheyenne now with how it's going to look very soon if this update is adopted. So, you know, a lot of times the consultants who plan these huge long-term sustainability plans, their goal is to make it as easy as possible for them because it's a very large undertaking, and so they use other communities to make their jobs easier. Fort Collins is featured throughout Plan Cheyenne as a model to emulate, and you can already see some of that in downtown Cheyenne. It's underway. I also took some photos of Fort Collins. The city of Fort Collins is actually advertising in the city of Cheyenne, so if you hear things like we're going to preserve our Western heritage, the consultants are going to be saying that a lot so that you don't worry about Cheyenne looking like Fort Collins. That's actually not accurate, and their own plan will show that.
Well, Stacy, we do have a phone call, and they've been pretty persistent, so let's let them get through here. Well, there you go. Good morning. You're on the morning show. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I have. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Emily.
You have to make it quick, Eric.
Morning.
All right, I'll try to make it as quick as possible. This question is to Stacy. Stacy, I listened to you on the internet, and I think you're right on the money. There are many facets to these ultimate plans for communities, and this all has to do with MAP 21 and Agenda 21 and UDC codes. But the thing I don't think the public is getting the grasp of, and if you do not go along with these systems, all right, there are systems in place already on the side of our homes. Some people can refer to a black box. Some people refer to smart meters. these are intrusive devices, all right, that violates our Fourth Amendment rights. Smart meters are, for the most part, transceivers. In other words, they can not only receive information about what your utility bill is, but they can also transmit information to that meter into your home to tell your smart appliances what to do.
Eric, could you move along a little bit, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the fact is that I heard you mention a little bit on the internet about the smart meters. But if we don't comply in the future with everything that government demands, they will just simply tell us what to do and levy fines and fees and whatnot for our carbon footprint. That's what this is all about.
I'd like to address that specifically.
Thank you, Eric.
All right.
Once this plan is adopted, your local officials, the county commissioners, and the city council that the people have elected to represent them actually do not have a say in what is implemented in the community anymore. And I know that sounds extreme, but this is how it works. Once you adopt this plan, you get federal and state grant money. Once you accept that grant money, you are required to implement the plan as the money was given. So if the city council objects to, say, the architectural guidelines in Plan Cheyenne, they cannot reject that by a vote because they've already adopted the plan. They've already accepted grant money specifically to implement the plan. So that's the disturbing part. These plans transform your local government, so now your elected officials do not have the authority to stop the plan once it's adopted.
So what you're saying is you take their money, you have to follow their rules, and
right.
you have no choice.
If you've ever applied for a grant before, you are required to use that grant money that you receive for your specific program. So the grant money that Cheyenne will get because of Plan Cheyenne is required to be used to implement the specific programs in there, and it's the programs that are in the plan that are going to hurt the people.
Assembly, I've always wondered how local government can spend, and the MPOs have been allocated $114 million from federal government. This goes through the MPO on their projects that they choose and they bring before the city council and the county commissioners. And it does do this transformation of our community from the bottom up, and this is a agenda to making us go green whether we want to or not. I was teasing Amy here. I hope they include this year's weather, as cold as it is, in their data when they talk about man-made global warming.
Well, let's talk about specifically what the United States Department of Energy says about the carbon dioxide. So the U.S. Department of Energy Carbon Dioxide Information Analysis Center, all they do is study CO2. The total amount of carbon dioxide that human beings are putting into the planet amounts to 114 100,000ths of 1%. That's the total amount of man-made CO2 that is going into the atmosphere. Now, a lot of times these consultants will say, well, you just don't care about the environment. And that is exactly opposite of the truth. I am passionate about protecting our environment, and that includes how it impacts people and our social benefits and our social welfare. And my focus is on what is best for the people who inhabit this planet, and we can work together without having all of these programs forced on us that actually impact the environment negatively. So that's my motivation, is to get the truth out there. And when you think about how small 114 100,000ths of 1% is, and that is the whole focus of these plans, is to reduce our CO2 emissions, we have a big disconnect from the foundation right there.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, get that out of the way, and then we'll have the remaining 10 minutes in the half hour before we have to go to the news. All right, so we're going to do that, Stacy. We'll be back with Stacy Lynne and Laramie County Commissioner Emily Hasenauer after this.
Hi, this is Chuck Breward from Laramie Peak Motors in Wheatland. If you've been looking for a pre-owned vehicle, I'd like to invite you to stop by in person or visit us online at LaramiePeakMotors.com. Choose from 90 of the cleanest used trucks, cars, and SUVs available in Wyoming and experience what makes buying a vehicle in Wheatland at Laramie Laramie Peak Motors different from any other dealership. Old-fashioned service for modern times. We're easy to get to at I-25 Exit 80 or shop anytime online at LaramiePeakMotors.com.
Hello, can you hear me? This is Arlen Walter at Cheyenne Hearing Clinic. I want to make sure that you're receiving the most advanced treatment and getting the best care for your hearing needs. At Cheyenne Hearing Clinic, we have the latest technology and service all brands of hearing devices. Call for a free hearing screening and potential hearing aid trial at 635-0435. When my patients leave the office, they can honestly say, I can hear you now.
Motivation, inspiration, education,
all without any manipulation. It's The Flatline with Rick Hughes. Each week, Rick invites you to orient and adjust and learn the 10 problem-solving devices found in the Bible and apply them to your life. It's The Flatline with Rick Hughes, Sunday mornings at 7:30 on Cheyenne's #1 news talk radio, AM 650, KGAB, and online at kgab.com.
I need a data backup solution for my business to replace my current tape backup device. Do you want to spend a lot of money? No. Do you want to store and pay for replicated data? No. How about a solution that's difficult to install and use? No. Offshore or automated phone tree support okay? No. Then yes, we can help.
Barracuda Backup, end-to-end protection for physical and virtual servers, including data deduplication to significantly reduce storage requirements, and replicated cloud storage for assured recovery, and live humans to answer your calls. Try Barracuda Backup free. Go to barracuda.com/yes.
I'm Ruth from Point Frontier Senior Living Community, inviting you to our open house the second Saturday of every month. But you can come in anytime to see the amenities, and now is the perfect time to make Point Frontier your home. While everyone else is shoveling sidewalks, you can relax in beautiful surroundings with free gourmet meals per day, luxury transportation with a chauffeur, 24-hour emergency response system, housekeeping, and fun activities, all while enjoying your independence. Let me show you what Point Frontier can offer you. 635-6953. Point Frontier. Now this is living.
Things that go bump in the night. Coast to Coast AM. Late nights on AM 650 KGAB.
Wow, I can't think of a better song than this one. Bad Moon Rising.
Trouble's on our way.
Trouble's on the way. Sometimes I wish I was a rock jock, you know. Anyways, Emily Hasenauer in the studio talking about a town hall event that's coming up on Saturday. And on the phone we have Stacy Lynne, who's a journalist from Colorado. And she's talking about what happened in Fort Collins and how a lot of Plan Cheyenne emulates what happened in Fort Collins. So, Stacy, good morning.
Good morning.
And Emily, so Stacy, let's continue. What's going on in Fort Collins?
Well, I'd like to go back to something the commissioner said about the $114 million that the Cheyenne MPO has received for transportation projects. And what's important to note about that is they have received $114 million, and they call it grant money, but the grant money, of course, is taxpayer money. So whenever you hear the term, we've received $80 million of grant money, that's actually taxpayer money. So that's a key for people to remember. You're paying for all of these projects, even though it sounds like it's free, you're funding them in some manner. The way that the Transportation Department is going to use that money is all based on models. And the thing about modeling is when you use a model that's not scientifically based, you're basically guessing at what is going to happen in the next year, the next 5 years. So all of this money is being spent or being planned in Plan Cheyenne based on things that don't exist and based on guesses. That's a large risk for a community to take with all of their own money.
So we sum it up, they're using our money to make decisions about things that they don't know are going to happen, but they think might happen.
Yes, they think they might happen, but they have no proof from any other communities that they have actually happened.
Here's what I'm concerned about. It's a bottom to the top up, but you're using top to the bottom down money. We're $17 trillion in debt. So when you're talking about $114 million, you're talking about $114 million more in debt. Federal government don't really have it, and it is taxpayers' money. I hate when people say, if we don't take the money, then the blank is somebody else will. That's code words to me when a politician says that, big government. I think that we need to be more fiscal conservative when it comes to spending this money. But what I dislike, Stacy, is that when it comes to federal money, it doesn't go to the state first, and the legislators have a decision to make about this. So there's no vote there. Then when it comes to the local level, only 5 county commissioners have a chance, and so does 10 city councilmen. I'd love to see a ballot vote on this.
Well, actually, the commissioners and the council members don't even have a chance to vote on this either. The thing about Plan Cheyenne is once it's adopted, the boards and commissions and the city planners will implement these without even your elected officials being able to vote on it. So that's a key for people to understand. Once this is in place, your city councilors, your mayor, and your county commissioners do not have any authority over what's happening in the community.
That seems like something that the county commissioners and the city council would not like very much.
Right, but they're not aware of that because when these consulting firms come into town, they are very effective at influencing the elected officials because they promise them all of these wonderful amounts of money. Of course, that's taxpayer money that they're promising. And they also explain to the elected officials that if Cheyenne does this, you will be recognized nationally. You'll start getting awards. You'll be placed on, Time and Newsweek as one of the greatest cities in America. And as I was doing research on Cheyenne, I actually found that in 2007 you were recognized nationally for your move toward these plans.
And I believe our mayor flew to Washington and got that award. I think what you're saying makes sense. And what firm did Fort Collins, was that the same firm that did Plan Cheyenne? There's where we're connecting the dots.
Yes, the city of Fort Collins used a consulting firm called Clarion Associates. It's the same consulting firm that created Plan Cheyenne, and Mr. Ben Herman is the principal who is organizing and crafting these plans. We know each other from the Plan Fort Collins process. And the one key before we run out of time is that people of all political views oppose this plan. And a lot of times the consulting firms will try to target the people who oppose it as a certain type of people. And the truth is that if you care about your family and you care about the future of Cheyenne, you will oppose this plan once you learn of the facts about it. And we're going to be focusing on the facts at the town hall meeting at the public library in Cheyenne on Saturday. I'll use photos to help you see it, how the plan will impact you. And so when we start to get attacked verbally, it simply means that the consulting firm is uncomfortable with the fact that the facts are being exposed.
Well, Stacy, we're out of time for this half hour, but I think you're on for the second half hour as well.
Excellent.
And the phone's ringing off the hook, but folks, we have to go to news, and as you all know, the Fox News is a hard break, so save your questions, save your phone calls for after the news break. I don't think it's a very long one this morning. Save your calls for after that, and we'll be back, and we'll let you talk to her and ask your questions. We'll be back on the morning show. Well, that's appropriate for Emily. Good morning, Aaron Copeland's Rodeo. I'm Amy Richards. We're back on the morning show, and on the phone with us is Stacy Lynne, and we're going to go right to a caller because they've been diligently standing by. Good morning. That's you, caller.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you for the program. Ms. Lynn mentioned that people that were going to be most impacted were the elderly, disabled, and there was a third group I can't remember. Could she take the time to expand on that just to a brief degree, please? Thank you.
Yes, that's an excellent question.
Thank you, caller.
What happens when these plans are adopted in your community is, like I was saying earlier, the local elected officials now have no authority to stop the plan's implementation. When the grant money runs out, then you're still forced to finish these programs, and the only way to do that is by raising sales taxes. At the same time they raise sales taxes, they cut programs that have been funded for decades in Cheyenne. For example, programs that help the elderly with heating, disabled transportation sources, programs for communities that are struggling A lot of times minority communities are struggling in certain areas, and so all of those programs will be cut in place of these other programs that are in Plan Cheyenne. Plan Cheyenne does not, the entire document of over 500 pages does not ever address how much the programs will cost. So there is no money in your budget at this moment for all of these plans. So the programs that are truly serving the community are cut in place of the programs that most of the community doesn't even know is coming toward them. So that's one way that hurts the most. It's heartbreaking to watch. I watched it in Fort Collins. They threatened to cut the ride programs for the disabled and for the seniors. A lot of the senior programs that we were serving our elderly population with were threatened to be cut. So that is one way that hurts the most. But when you think about sales taxes being raised, a lot of times people are just struggling to make it on a daily basis, and that's where my concern comes in, that the consulting firm is not being honest with the costs. There is not a mention of it in the entire plan, how much each program will cost. And Cheyenne simply doesn't have the money in their budget to implement these programs.
Nor do they have the authority to raise taxes. They have to go before the voters. And they just don't have that authority in Wyoming.
Amazing, though, in front of the city planning, right before this came up for review, they were talking about raising fees for building permits. Building permits, that's how they get it.
That's how they get it, because they can't. Local municipalities in the state of Wyoming cannot raise taxes.
But they raise fees, and that's coming. And then, have you watched utilities go up there in Fort Collins because of plan?
Another heartbreaking part of this this whole program is, since we updated Plan Fort Collins a few years ago, our utilities rates have tripled. That's across the board. The rates have tripled. So even the people who are cutting back on use, trying to keep their utility bills low enough to afford, their rates have tripled. So
let's connect this dot. It was adopted in 2006. Some say this is an old plan, been around forever. I dug up this. It said the end result is a living document that clarifies, streamlines, and improves Cheyenne's development regulations. They also passed UDC codes, and by passing these UDC codes, it was to also implement Plan Cheyenne. Are them two connected together?
They're actually, they go hand in hand, and in 2011, the city of Cheyenne did adopt the Unified Development Code. They had to adopt those codes prior to this Plan Cheyenne update being adopted, so that each of those plans would reinforce the other.
And then one more thing, I've been asking for a ballot vote on this. Do you think that's the proper way to do it? Tom Mason is our MPO, and after the meeting he says, we just don't do it that way. Is there a formula that we as an officials or the public can request a ballot vote whether we want Plan Cheyenne, and we might as well throw in UDC codes because they're connected, give the chance to our constituents here in Laramie County, Cheyenne, to vote on this?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the system that is already in place in the United States, and that is that first the City Council could refer Plan Cheyenne to the voters. They can do it all on their own authority. They do have the authority to put this on a ballot for the voters, and if the City Council chooses not to do that, then the voters themselves can put it on the ballot through an initiative process. So you have two ways. If it is passed, if the City Council decides to implement this Plan Cheyenne, then the voters can take control of it themselves, which is actually our responsibility. I know it seems extreme to do that, but the consultants will argue that if you do put this to a vote, then it's going to cost the people money.
And they usually call us the extremists. And
well, it costs money to run an election, but if you have an election already going on, it's just adding it to the ballot.
I would request it go on the general ballot, not be a special election.
And that's the best way to do it, because then you have more time to help inform the people about specifically what is in this plan and how it will impact them negatively. And when you look at consider the fact that the consulting firm did not put any costs in this nearly 500-page basic document. The cost of an election is minuscule compared to the cost of this Plan Cheyenne.
I know everybody can go to the city website, look up www.cheyenne.gov, plancheyenne.com. You can review the whole plan yourself.
It's actually plancheyenne.org. It's .org.
Okay.
And don't be surprised if you go and click on that link and it's broken, because a lot of times these links to these plans are broken, so it makes it very difficult for people to see them. So be patient, click on it a few times, wait for it to reload, and hopefully you'll find it.
I know there was some information that I wanted. I'm showing it to you, Amy, right now. I went to...
it's black.
Yeah, it's black. And there's lettering behind the black, which you can. It says comprehensive plan right there.
It's black.
Town or development right there. And what I've seen is when you look at Plan Boulder, you look it up, Plan Fort Collins, Plan Casper, Plan Cheyenne, there's something like 60 or 7 references all over our country doing the same thing, transforming our communities from the bottom to the top and making us go green.
I guess we're forming them into what?
Well,
into all of the same type of programs and communities, so that it's very easy for local governments to have no control over what's happening in their communities now. Okay. And that it sounds extreme to say that, but that is the intent of Plan Cheyenne, is to take the elected officials' control away from them. And at the town hall meeting on Saturday, I'll go into exactly how that happens. It's going to be a very energetic presentation. It's not a boring slideshow where you can't wait for it to end. And there will be a lot of time for audience questions. The questions from the audience are key, because a lot of times the language they use in these programs is confusing. It's like an attorney who understands the legal language, but a lot of people don't have the time to invest in learning what that means. So I'll help you understand different terminology means. It is a politically neutral town hall meeting, and that's key, because people on all sides of the political spectrum are concerned about plans like this throughout the United States. There are many different groups who oppose this type of long-range term plan.
I know the MPOs wanted to do a plan down South Greeley Highway, and because of the Southside Development and Maury Brown and Pat Crank and a lot of active people, they was able to stop it. But that does not happen very often.
Those are heavy hitters, too.
The next hot one coming up, and a study's being done, is Raised Islands down Dale Range.
Huh?
That's right, and Story all the way to 4 Mile.
Well, it didn't work when they put them on Vandehigh. All it did was make it difficult for fire trucks to get through. But.
I can only reveal to the public this is what's coming in, and $200,000 to $300,000 studies that this is what we need to do, and this is good for you. So if that's the next hot project.
Range is equivalent to College Drive in Fort Collins. And do they have raised islands on College Drive?
Yes, we've been adding those raised islands, and we have just done that in the north end of Fort Collins, where a lot of the lower income population is concentrated. The other heartbreaking aspect of what they're doing in North Fort Collins is coming to Cheyenne, and that it is they're eliminating the mobile home parks and the older homes that are that people can afford still in Fort Collins. They're systematically forcing those mobile home parks into oblivion. We've had 3 in the past 5 years, I believe, where all of those residents have been, they have no homes. They completely wiped out those communities because they were not attractive. They did not meet the architectural guidelines of Plan Fort Collins. And go to page 181 in Plan Cheyenne, and that is coming to Cheyenne.
Well, Stacy, let me take the last break of the hour. It's only a minute break, and we'll come back. We'll wind this all up, and you guys can talk about time, dates, and everything about the upcoming town hall. We'll be back after this. Okay, that sounds like some ominous sci-fi music. And anyways, we're talking to Emily Hasenauer and Stacy Lynne about the town hall meeting coming up on Saturday regarding Plan Cheyenne. I do remember something my grandmother used to tell me all the time. You don't take their money, you don't have to follow their rules. And you take their money, anybody's money, you have to kind of follow their rules, and that's what it sounds like is happening here.
And there is strings attached to taking federal money, and it is not free money. It is money that we pay into them, but we are in debt, so it's just adding to the debt. I'd like everyone to come to this town hall meeting at 3:30 to 5:45, see the PowerPoints and the pictures, and ask more questions to Stacy of what's going on. And the same plan down there is being implemented here. Ours was put into place in 2006. Theirs in 93, but we're on fast track to catch them. Then there's another meeting coming up. It's the County Planning Commission. That'll be February 13th. That's at the old county courthouse, 309 West 19th Street. Folks, come out. Let your elected officials know that, and I would push for a ballot vote on whether you want Plan Cheyenne, and we might as well throw the UDC codes in with them.
And I would like to invite all of the elected officials from the county and the city to attend on Saturday. You will be warmly welcomed. It will be a very respectful and open town hall meeting. So a lot of times you don't know the specific details, and because you are responsible for voting this to represent the people who elected you, I encourage you to come out and learn the facts.
Well, Stacy, we're going to wind it up with you the next 5 minutes or so. Emily's got to run to a state board meeting regarding a project, so he's going to run out. So you and I are going to continue. What was the question you wanted me to ask real quick?
I don't know. It slipped my mind. I got to run to a magpole
all right.
SLID meeting.
Yeah.
Stacy,
you're not on.
She asked you, I know you'll respond. Thanks
all right.
For coming on this morning.
Well, Stacy, my question is this a cookie-cutter plan that's being used all over the country? Because I don't see Cheyenne being that much like Fort Collins. We don't have the money. We don't have the wealth. We don't have the university. Well, actually, we probably do have money and wealth. It just isn't as apparent. And we don't have a university in our town. This would seem like it would be something that they do in Laramie, not in Cheyenne. But is this a cookie-cutter plan?
It is a cookie-cutter plan, and that's why the same consulting firms are used across the United States. And if you think about New York has planned New York City. It is inconceivable to think that what they're doing in New York would work in Cheyenne, but the way they craft these plans is exactly efficient, and because a lot of people don't know about it before it's too late to stop, Cheyenne is using the same plan as Fort Collins and as New York and places in the Carolinas. I mean, it's everywhere.
Well, in New York City, you don't have one municipal government. You have 5, I think, 5 or 6. Right,
and they're all using the same framework.
So Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan, they're all using the same framework, is what you're saying. But it's
yes, and one way they do that is these regional planning organizations that, let's say, Laramie and Casper and Cheyenne are all in the same planning organization. Then that's another way they take this authority from local elected officials, and the planning organizations now direct and guide the future of your individual communities. Okay, well, we have about 3 minutes left. Real quick, what can people do? They can come to the meeting, first of all, correct? Absolutely. Come to the meeting, and then they'll have a lot more information than they can ask their elected officials about the plan, what their thoughts are on the plan, because getting engaged in this process is key. The consulting firm announced in their documents that they had widespread public input on this plan, and so I looked to see what that meant. And it turns out that there were about 75 total members of Cheyenne who created this whole program, and that is what the consulting firm is saying was the massive public input on the plan. And on Saturday we'll learn about who those 75 people were, because it turns out they actually have a vested interest in adopting this plan. I think that's sometimes the case. Right now it's in the planning stage, and with the last minute we have, there is a mechanism to take it to the voters, which is what you discussed with Emily. There is a mechanism if the voters ask for it by initiative, correct? That is correct, but the thing that would be fabulous is if the city council itself would refer this to the voters, would put it on the ballot, and they can do that simply by through the process of getting it on the ballot through the city council. So that would save the people a lot of time and money. Right, a resolution from the council, or if that doesn't occur, an initiative from the residents. Correct. Okay, well, we're out of time, Stacy. I appreciate it. Meeting is Saturday, 3:30 to 5:45 at the Laramie County Library in the Cottonwood Room. Stacy will be there, and you promise it will not be boring. It will not. It will not be boring. It gets quite intense, but it will be respectful, and you will know a lot more about Plan Cheyenne and what's headed your way. Okay. Well, there's that annoying music. So we do have to go to the news. Stacy, thank you. Good luck on Saturday. If I can make it, I will go. But good luck on Saturday. And
We're going to go to news at the top of the hour. We'll be back after this.
KGAB Orchard Valley, Cheyenne, a Wild Preps radio station. AM 650 KGAB, Cheyenne's #1 news talk radio.
Good morning. You're on the morning show.
Hi, Amy. This is Barry.
Hey, Barry.
Hey, when I was talking to Stacy last week, when I was interviewing her, one of the things I had mentioned to her, and I really encourage people to look at the Plan Cheyenne website, look at the map there that encompasses that Cheyenne there and the county.
I have it. Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at that, let me ask you, when you see that, you see FE Warren Air Force Base included in there?
Well, no, because it's federal. I would not expect to see it included in there.
Well, I mean, when you look at the red line that's around the whole thing, it actually encompasses Warren Air Force Base.
Yeah.
But what I told Stacy, what that really tells me is that if you're actually putting a red line, because there's no red line around the base, it actually encompasses around the base.
Right.
So that to me tells me that this is bigger than a state or even a city, but this becomes a federal issue. And I think that if people look into things, you'll realize that this is not something small. I think this is pretty big. One of the things when I talked to her, if you look at like Swan Ranch and look at that map, it goes all the way down to the border. Now, you have to realize Fort Collins has actually bought land up to the border. And that actually basically is showing that those two areas are actually being conjoined. Like Casper eventually is going to have one of those, if not already, those red areas around them. What I'm saying is that always question everything, always look at the bigger picture, because I think if you look at it long enough and start gleaming out of it, a lot more questions will pop up than the answers you're getting.
Well, I have no doubt that, it's federal, because that's where the money comes from the federal government. So.
Sure. Well, and just like you had mentioned about, I believe, your grandmother, if you take the money, you got to kind of do what they say. So
she was talking about something else, but it fits. She was talking about, divorce, child custody, stuff like that. She was talking about something else. So,
sure.
But it does apply. It does apply. If you take money from some entity, whether it's whether it's the federal government, city government, and it's a grant, and then Stacy did point that out. She says when you take grant money, whether it's a grant to build a baseball field or something like that, there are certain things that you have to follow in that grant that you have to follow, or they take the money away, or you don't get it.
Well, and I think what's interesting about it is that when elected officials do that, they end up being in a situation where they're giving up sovereign power to that federal agency or government.
And I believe that was one of her main points this morning, was exactly that when you take this particular money, the local, with the exception of them saying, with the exception of the city council, she made that clear. She said a city government can ask for it to be taken to the people. They can ask for that.
Yeah.
And then the people can do it through initiative.
That's why it's so important. Let the will of the people. And that's I believe the people will make the right choice on this. Don't let 15 people make the choice. Let the people make the choice.
Right. Well, they can do that. If they choose to, they can do that. That's a matter of, and the people can too as well.
Well, Amy, I do appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, I hear you're kind of busy in the background, so we'll let you go.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.